Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond, where we celebrate our history, our heritage, our culture, and our own authentic voice. And today we have a distinct honor to welcome to the set Christopher Mann. Welcome to the set.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
Chris,
Thank
you know, you're a pretty interesting individual, but let's do it this way.
All right.
Tell me a little bit about who you are.
Okay. Well, I was born in Chester, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It's a little town right outside of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Moved to Michigan for a couple years.
Michigan,
Yeah,
okay.
for a few years, about 3 years, and then moved back to Philadelphia, back to Chester, then to Virginia State University, then back to Philly again. So Philly's always been my spot. Philly, Chester area. This is two. Matter of fact, I was born back when everything in here was 215.
Oh,
There was
215.
no 610s and
Okay.
267. So I'm from way back in the day when DAS was all AM.
Well, that brings me to another good question. Right. So, what's the cultural context you grew up in those various parts?
Oh wow, that's a good question. Humble beginnings, brother. Chester, PA. I mean, I know a lot of people know a lot of the background of Chester. Chester's a pretty heavily crime-ridden area. But believe it or not, man, there's a lot of good people there as well. But I came up, I'll tell you this is a story. I don't tell it that often, but I still remember this. It frightened me to a point. We lived over top of a drugstore when I was real small.
That sounds real funny.
Oh yeah, over top of a drugstore. And it was rat infested, man. And I can remember the rats running through the
Wow.
apartment. And I asked my father years later after I got married, I said, Dad, I remember this apartment we were in. The rats were really running through? He said, yeah. He said, I set the traps just to slow them down. I had to take a hammer to finish killing them. He was not joking, man. So, yeah, those kind of beginnings, the projects, my grandmother was in the project, I had to stay there after my parents separated. And then I moved to Michigan for a while, a couple of years. And it's funny because I got a different cultural experience there because we moved to a mixed community. So I went to school with, it was white and African Americans, but it was predominantly white school district that we were in. So I got a different feeling of, the lifestyles. I'm trying to fit in now because where I came from, it was really hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm trying to fit in. And before I could actually get a good grasp on it, I moved back to Philly. But Philly, my experience in Philly was in Mount Airy, so that was more of a that was more of a middle class area. You know what I mean? So it wasn't the projects, it wasn't multicultural, but it was it was a different aspect from the black experience for me. So I've got all these different little mixes in me.
How did that shape you? Because that's.
I think a lot of times people can't tell where I'm from because of it.
Okay,
That's
good. That's good.
I mean, I know I've have some mannerisms from being in the Philadelphia area for so many years, you know what I mean? So people can kind of tell once they meet me. But a lot of times folks can't really tell where I'm from. But it gave me a lot to draw off of on a palette as far as acting. That it kind of helped me decide to get into that field because I said, well, I got a lot to draw from, and two, I didn't talk about too much of it, but during those periods growing up, I went through a lot of traumatic experiences. Between mother dying when I was real young.
Wow.
The separation with my mother and father, molestation from cousins.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So I went through a lot, man, and then being around the drug areas, and so I've seen a lot. You know what I mean? In the midst of all of that. So and even child abuse to a degree.
Wow.
My mother's boyfriend beat me for a couple of years, man. It was really, I went through a lot. So yeah, I went through a lot, brother. Wow. So yeah, there's a lot to this background here.
But you persevered through the persecution, which was good.
I had to. Well, yeah, it's life, man. You know what I mean?
And you brought up something very very good, and I really appreciate you being transparent because I think that's what's critical. But you brought up the acting, and you was in a couple movies I really like. One, The Bourne Supremacy, but The Bourne Legacy.
Oh, okay.
How were you able to just break into, movies or film and things of that nature?
No, it's a long process, man.
Okay.
Started taking classes. I started out with a commercial class years ago. I think I might have been 22, 23. Then I started doing scene study classes for film, just doing films. I really wasn't too interested in stage, even though I ended up studying with several theater companies later on. But just it's a long process. You get into it, you study, you learn what's expected of you as an actor. I was going to say entertainer, but as an actor, you learn what's expected of you. You learn to communicate with the director. You learn how to break down a scene, find the beats, the moments, the subtext to a scene. I mean, it's a lot to it, but it's a lot of years. You get in there, and you have to determine for yourself at some point, okay, can I really do this? Am I good at this or am I not? And you have to be honest with yourself. And you need people around you who don't just blow smoke.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I know a lot of, and I don't name names, but I know some folks that have been in it for a long time. It's like, ooh, man, but you don't want to interject, because you don't want to feel like you think they think you know more than they do, and I don't want to get into all of that, an ego struggle.
Well, one of the hot topics right now, and this is great to ask of you, is the whole Oscar situation. Sometimes we feel like we need to be vindicated and validated. So what's your perspective when it comes to that?
Good question. Good question. You're good. Wow. See, this is a layered question you just put on me, because our history as African Americans in this country, from slavery to now, it has always been a need for acceptance. And I understand, where our people are upset about not being recognized for the work that they've done, because they feel as though it's on the same plateau as the other actors. But at the same time, I look at it on the industry level, and it's like, well, this is their house that they built. If you look at the history of Hollywood and Metro Goldwyn Mayers and Warner Brothers, how they went out to L.A. and started this whole thing on their own, and then that's another point, because when they did that, the movies and things that they did started to shape America, because people started watching movies, and that's how they started developing how we conducted ourselves in society, and we weren't represented then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it's still their house, so they can invite who they want into it, and they can say, okay, well, no, we don't want you in, or we do want you in, or this year we'll give you an award. But we ourselves, at this point, I would think that we're at a level where we can actually build our own home, okay, so that, African Americans can study and the craft and make a living amongst ourselves, because we're providing content for our own people that we're interested in, and it can cross over, and vice versa. Theirs can cross over to ours, we can cross over to theirs, but we still need our own home. And I get the controversy over how come this year and last year we didn't get any. I get it. But at the same time, if we were doing our own, you really wouldn't be that concerned with what's going on over there.
Have you shared with your colleagues and your peers in the industry that are they less significant, or are they less talented because they didn't get recognition? I mean, how does that have you had those kind of conversations?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, it always comes up, but what you're asking a particular group of people who have their own personal interests, to validate you. And if they're not interested in what you're doing, how can you expect them to validate it? You know what I mean? Some people watch football, some people watch basketball. You understand what I'm saying? So if they're not watching what you're putting out, they can't evaluate what you're doing. So you can't let that determine your net worth, or and who you are as far as what you're doing in your craft. Yeah. So no, your audience will dictate to you who you are. The people who are watching, they might be in a position to give you an award, but they will let you know, hey, we like what you did, or no, it stunk. You know what I'm saying? So, from on that level, we develop our own. Yeah. And then if we cross, paths, right? It's fine. It's, because we're looking at a global community now. You know what I'm saying? So, you build yours. Matter of fact, if you go to out in L.A. Cable networks. If you look, I go out there, and there's so many Latino cable networks. They've got game shows, they got soap operas and everything. So they actually have built a home where they can make their own living at their own crafts, the game shows and everything else. And then if they cross over into the mainstream, as they call it, then it's whatever. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they can still make a living without having to worry about the mainstream saying, okay, come on in.
Man, you know what? We're running out of time, but I want to do this. What are some of the ways people get in contact with you? Because there's some upcoming projects that you're working on, but what are some of the ways people get in contact with you with the work that you're doing and the things that you're creating to build your own house? And we'll invite a couple people in the room. We won't leave them on the porch. We'll invite them in the room.
Okay. I'll give you my email address. It's manifest1@aol.com. It's MANNAFEST, the number 1 at AOL.com. I'm on Facebook, Christopher Mann on Facebook, Mr. C Mann, MRCMANN on Twitter. So there's a few ways to get in touch with me that way. One project that I did recently that's going to come out this year is called Loving. It's about the interracial couple that got married in Virginia.
Wow.
And they were kicked out of the state, and they had to fight for like 7 years. Their case actually went to the U.S. Supreme Court so they can go back into the state together. Because they got kicked out, they couldn't come in together, they had to keep sneaking in. I won't tell the whole story, but HBO actually did a documentary on them called Loving versus Virginia.
Wow.
So I played the girl's father in the movie. It's a great cast, some pretty nice names, and great director.
Oh, we go get that. We gonna definitely promote that. Hey, we thank you once again for tuning in with 28 Days, where we celebrate our history, our heritage, our culture, and our own authentic voice. And we'd like to thank once again Christopher Mann for coming to the set. Appreciate it. We gotta have you coming back.
Yes, sir.
Tune in again.